what we love on this channel? We love some neighbor drama. When it's not happening to us. Isn't that right? This neighbor drama would have me putting up a for sale sign on my front yard, okay? I don't even have a house though. First story, my neighbor is a peeping creep. How do I keep his eyes and cameras out of my house? Ew. Since I told him to never contact me or set foot on my property again, he has not spoken to me, texted me, or come on my property. The police won't do anything because he has the right to record or look into my house as long as he's not on my property? Huh? I've tried. No, I can't get a portable AC unit as my house is shotgun style and the operable windows are off the big/main area, so it wouldn't help. No, I can't afford to hire a lawyer. Yes, I have my own cameras. Yes, I have a big dog. And yes, I will 100% send him to Jesus if he ever tries me. I'm just looking for suggestions for how to obscure his view without sacrificing the cool breeze. I live across the street from the perv. Multiple neighbors have restraining orders against him as he was found breaking into homes to snoop and was recording people using the toilet through their windows. What do you mean? And nothing's being done? He has cameras installed all over his property, and if anything is happening on the block, he will literally run outside and hold his phone up and record. One day he got my phone number from another neighbor and started blowing up my phone, telling me the second my mail arrived, if the meter reader stepped foot on the property, if a package got delivered, etc. Then he started texting things that weren't actually happening and asking intrusive questions, such as saying that some city workers broke the water line on my property and I wouldn't have water anymore, or asking me if I think he's attractive. I flat out said no, and I told him not to ask me about things like that ever again. I would have blocked his number immediately. I told him not to contact me unless there was an emergency of some kind. He is the emergency of some kind. So he started showing up on my doorstep and texting me, meet me at your mailbox, or come talk to me, it's important. But then would just ask me how I'm doing and why I haven't gone to work on Monday that week, or if I got the package that was delivered on Wednesday. I stopped responding to him and I started ignoring him. When he continued to show up at my door, I texted him to go away and not to bother me anymore. He then started harassing me about my trash bins, texting me as soon as the garbage was picked up that I needed to come collect my bins, and literally would not stop until I pulled them back up the driveway. I'm violently annoyed by this. Considering I work 50 hours a week, some days it's going to take 12 hours for me to get the dang bins, and this crazy man would text me repeatedly throughout the day. I told him to knock it off and to mind his own business, but he persisted. My house is shotgun style with large lead pane windows that don't open. I have no AC. If I want any sort of ventilation or breeze, I have to open both the front doors and the back doors. I keep the screen doors closed, but there's no other way to keep cool and have fresh air. I don't do anything on my days off other than disassociate via YouTube, nap, and snack. I assumed I was too boring to be in interest of literally anyone. Too bad I was wrong. One day I was chilling on my couch in my living room and I happened to glance up and out my front door. Across the street stood the a-hole himself, holding up his phone and recording me, talking to himself like a freaking lunatic. I was sitting on my couch, fully dressed and covered, dying slowly of heat stroke and playing on my phone. There was nothing fun or exciting happening, and yet there he was, earballs deep in my business. I texted him immediately and I asked him if he was seriously recording me. He didn't answer and just hurried inside his house, slammed the front door, and then texted back that I should be careful about what's visible to the public. Girl, move. Oh my God, move. So creepy. He's practically stalking you at this point. I told him to never contact me again, never step foot on my property, and to stay the F away from me. I put up frost panels in my windows so he can't see into them, but I don't know what to do about my doors. If I don't keep them both open, it becomes dangerously hot and suffocating in my house. I haven't caught him recording me again, but I have caught him looking into my house from his front porch. Is there some product I'm missing that would make it impossible to see into my screen door without losing the breeze and air? air. I wonder if there's like a curtain, you know those privacy curtains where it's almost like a same mesh, like a screen almost, so the breeze would still come in, but it would be enough to at least give you privacy. Like you would just be a blurry figure. He wouldn't be able to see certain details of in your house. I hate that I can't just exist in my own space, but AC units are useless without a functioning window, and I feel claustrophobic and damp when the house is locked up. I went to the police to ask about what could be done, but the thing is, he is obviously mentally off. There's characteristics of development delay or other things present. As a result, the police won't prosecute him or even go speak to him on my behalf because, quote, he doesn't know better. That is complete and utter BS. He absolutely does know better. He works, he owns a home, he lives independently. He's just gross and nobody will do anything about it because they don't want to be seen picking on the special guy, she has in quotations. They told me I could pay $350 to file for a restraining order, but he's allowed to view and record anything he can see from the road or from his cameras. Help. Any ideas on how to preserve privacy while still getting that life-saving breeze? I hate this. All I got was the privacy curtain thing. Obviously, I feel like if she could get a window fixed to put in AC, that's the obvious answer, but obviously there's a reason why she can't do that right now, whether that's finances or the house that it won't allow for an AC to be put in. What about no, you still need a window for that. And fans just push around hot air, the worst. Next story. How much privacy are neighbors owed in a backyard fight? My spouse and I spend a lot of time outside because we have a young kid. We sit in on our screened porch a lot. We grill, garden, let our kids splash around in the kiddie pool, etc. We're honestly pretty low key. No parties, no huge groups of people over, no blasting music until midnight. We're usually inside by 7 p.m. and in bed before 10 p.m. Our houses are maybe 40 feet apart and the fences to our yards are basically back to back. So hearing people outside is just a part of living here. If people are on their porch or in their yard, you can hear conversations sometimes, especially in the summer when everyone has their windows open. Today our neighbors came outside fighting, and after we had already been outside for a while, I just ignore it and continue playing with my kid when I suddenly hear the neighbor yell, "These nosy effing neighbors won't go the F inside so we can effing talk." Why don't you go inside and talk? Huh? The thing is, we were literally already outside minding our business before they even came out there. We weren't sitting there trying to eavesdrop. Trust me, given the option, I wouldn't be out here playing on the floor in lava in 100-degree weather either, but here we are. I mean, yeah, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't overheard their fights before because they fight outside a few times a week. If somebody is yelling, locking someone out of the house, slamming doors, and peeing out of the driveway next door, people are going to hear it. We just ignore it and continue with our business. See, I would have opened my mouth. I literally would have been like, or you guys can take your toxic relationship in the house and fight in private because I'm trying to enjoy some sunshine in my backyard. You go, girl! But I'm genuinely confused by the expectation here. Are we supposed to pack up our kids and go inside every single time they decide to have an argument on their back porch? Now I feel weirdly self-conscious about simply being outside at all, which honestly pisses me off because our porch is basically our unwind space and we literally just bought a small pool for the summer. Am I crazy or is it unreasonable as hell to expect neighbors to leave their own yard so you can privately argue outside? Girl, the fact you're like even asking this and typing this up on Reddit is mind-boggling to me. Bless your sweet, sweet soul. But this is crazy. This is insane.
That's insane.
You are not crazy. Please continue to enjoy what sounds like a beautiful backyard. Next story. Neighbor had no idea where the property lines are and cut down my healthy 89-year-old oak because he didn't like trees being near his shed. Not an oak tree? Those are so beautiful. Also worth a lot. Woodworking fiance over here. I know that oak is very expensive. We have a picture and apparently we have to look at this tree first, okay? This beautiful oak tree. Oh, it is beautiful. Oh, come on. Look at all the trees and greenery your property has. Stunning. Anyways, RIP. After cutting it down, upon my pointing out the property stakes that he missed, showing that it was about 40 feet into my property, he switched to demanding that I pay half the $2,000 he spent to have it cut down. Yeah, that stump is 89 inches in circumference, by the way. I'm just glad I looked out into the backyard and I was able to intervene before he had cut down the adjacent oak as well. As you saw, there were 2 stumps. I got pictures of the stump, the other trees he had cut down at the same time, which were mostly on his lot, the day laborers in question, the property stakes that were ignored, and photos from both my front yard and his to demonstrate the before and after as compared to Google Images. I also filed a police report. The wife wrote down her recollection of the confrontation. A tree lawyer contacted me, working on getting a survey. I didn't even know they had such thing as a tree lawyer.
Is that a thing?
I found an association that offers consulting. Let the property manager of the next door house know that this guy took out a few trees on their lot as well. I'm a Virginia resident and it looks like we have triple damages for timber trespass, so I am being thorough. Let me know if I missed anything. I guess I'm just here to vent. My wife and I are both pretty upset. Yeah, I would be too. I would be too, because there's no undoing that either. Once you cut that sucker down, you can't just put it back up when he realizes it was 40 feet on your property, and the fact he wants to charge you some is just, it's laughable. We have an update though. We have an update. I'm excited to see what happened. It came 2 years later, and we are now at May 21st, 2026. What happened with the tree lawsuit? My wife and I were both pretty upset about the situation, and we hit the ground running from day one. We retained a lawyer specializing in tree law who advised us to solicit a property survey to confirm the location of the trees. This ended up taking nearly 2 months due to a local shortage of surveyors, and unsurprisingly, conclusively demonstrated that the tree was well within the bounds of our property by about 50 feet. While waiting on that, we hired a TPAQ certified arborist to examine the stump and photos we provided of the tree pre-cutting. His appraisal was that the tree was healthy at the time of cutting and assessed a replacement value based on trunk formula technique. Oh my God, you guys are never gonna guess what that tree costs. Okay, maybe you will, because you're smarter than I. Put your guesses in before I say it real fast. I want to give you guys a second to guess in your head, okay? It was appraised at value for $11.8 thousand. However, in my state, the replacement value is not considered the basis for damages. Instead, damages for commercially grown trees are 3 times the value of the lumber, while for residential trees, the recognized damages are the reduction in property value as a result of the trespass. Our lawyer provided a recommendation for a home appraiser to determine this value. I explored a few other possibilities based on my research, and in no particular order, here we go. We filed a police report, but since it was not a malicious act, they simply dismissed it as a civil matter. Our homeowner's insurance doesn't cover trees on the property, so filing a claim with them was off the table. Our mortgage lender was unconcerned with the reduction in value of the property. Our neighbor's homeowner's insurance wouldn't cover him since it was a deliberate, if negligent, act. Legal precedent would not support going after the tree service for damages either, since it was our neighbor who engaged their services. The fees involved in the survey, arborist appraisal, I'm probably saying that wrong, home appraisal, and lawyer fees would not be recoverable. The only damages we could seek would be that loss in property value, which just left suing our neighbor for the reduction in property value. By November of 2024, we had an appraisal in hand, asserting a loss in value of about $10,000. Our lawyer wrote and sent a demand letter, which received no immediate response. After repeated attempts at a follow-up and seeing my neighbor walking around his property with a surveyor, now he cares where the property line is, we finally got a response from our neighbor's lawyer in February of 2025. The response basically asserted that the tree was dead and hollowed out, that it was on some forgotten corner of the property and therefore was worthless, and that it was an innocent mistake by my neighbor neighbors, so oopsie daisy, not his problem. This pissed me off. My lawyer thought this response indicated that my neighbor's lawyer recognized he had no case, so called him to see if they could hash it out over the phone. The neighbor's lawyer was apparently dismissive, clearly out of his element with tree law, and hung up on my lawyer. This made my lawyer rather upset and consequently highly motivated to pursue the case further as a matter of defending his professional integrity. As general life advice, I would recommend not antagonizing lawyers. So, my lawyer sent a follow-up letter breaking down every point of the defense and why it is nonsense, and included the appraisal and photos that I took the day of, which clearly show that the tree was healthy and that the claim that it was dead and hollow was BS. My neighbor and his lawyer did not reply, so at this point, nearly a year after the actual incident, we filed a lawsuit. And this still didn't seem to spur my neighbor into taking anything more seriously. The court system did its thing, slow as ever, and by fall assigned us a court date for summer of 2026. Then there was a whole lot of radio silence until, lo and behold, come February, my neighbor must have realized that he was actually going to court for a lawsuit he was unlikely to win. Suddenly, he wanted to negotiate, offering a very generous $2,000. We began actual negotiation and the numbers started to rise. Apparently, my neighbor was yelling at his lawyer by this point. Eventually, we settled at $7,000. I was a bit disappointed by this, but my lawyer gently explained that going to court would mean more billable hours, plus having to pay for the time of our expert witnesses, plus any additional fees that would go into actually extracting the money from this moron if and when we won, and those would eat up the difference even assuming the judge fully sided with us. At this point, our total expenses were just under $5,000 out of pocket, so we would still come out ahead. Ugh, by $2,000. There was some additional nonsense with our neighbor asking to pay in installments, but in the end, our lawyer received all payment and it cleared to our trust account. So in total, it took nearly 2 years, many hours of emails and phone calls, and almost $5,000 out of pocket to ultimately receive a $7,000 settlement for an appraised $10,000 of damages. And that's where it ends. It was a lot of time and effort to ultimately walk away with a fraction of the damage done. There's a hole in the tree line that I don't care for, a depressing stump where that huge oak used to be, and a neighbor who I can only hope has learned some lesson. Either way, I've built a rope fence that careless workers can't ignore as readily as property markers, but doesn't distract the movement of animals through the neighborhood. I like seeing deer and foxes and trees around me. Thank you very much. You read about the karmic justice cases where someone gets a 6-figure payout, but from my research, I gather most cases of tree law go more like this. Most trees just aren't that valuable outside of exceptional circumstances or damages, and it takes a lot of money to actually engage the legal system to force an outcome. My wife and I are very fortunate to be in a position where we could afford to spend so much out of pocket in the hopes of getting repaid at some unspecified point in the future. A lot of people don't have that luxury, and unfortunately, that means little recourse in a situation like this. I mean, to be honest, I didn't even know there was tree law to this extent. I really didn't. I've never owned a home though, of course, so I've never had to personally experience this, but I also didn't know what trees were worth, apparently. So, mind-boggling. We got more stories, you guys, but you know what time it is. We gotta hydrate. It's hydration station. Cheers. Today, I do have my water next to me, but I actually have a little ginger and lemon tea bag and a spearmint tea bag. So I'm gonna be hydrating with some tea. It still counts because it's just water, you know? Cheers. To everyone who told me to keep the rug and that you loved it, your update, we kept the rug. Oh, Lila's got an itch. Okay. We kept the rug. I'm happy you guys liked it because I did too. And you like it too, huh? Okay, sure. No help at all. You don't. Next story. My neighbor is vandalizing their side of the fence. I knew there was going to be a fence story in here. If you know, you know. And no, there are no updates, you guys. The fence is still there. This story came January 10th of 2020. This is really stupid, I swear, but I'm not sure what to do or if they're correct or what. I live in Minnesota. I own our house. In May, I had a fence put in, a 6-foot cedar privacy fence. It encloses my backyard and runs up the side yard as well. We had our property professionally assessed and marked where the property line is, and we put the fence on the property line. The neighbor has just recently moved in. Their backyard is fenced on 3 sides because all of his surrounding neighbors have fences. So the side that we share the fence, the neighbor behind him has a chain link fence, and the neighbor on the opposite side has a slightly taller chain link fence. The side of the yard facing the road is open. Driving home from work the other day, I noticed they had painted all over the side of my fence that faces their yard. Not like all one color, but just painting random crap. The kids, they're 2 younger kids and one is possibly 13-ish, were let loose, and it's a mishmash of colors and pictures and whatever. I'm pretty upset by this, as this fence was not cheap. I got home and I asked my significant other what we should do, and then I went over to talk to the neighbor. The neighbors, as it turns out, are extremely psychotic. The husband answered the door in boxers and right off the bat was very defensive. He stood there, chest puffed out like he was going to fight me over it. I explained that I didn't appreciate him painting on my fence. I didn't actually get much farther than that because he blew up at me, ranting about how since it's on the property line, the half of the fence that's facing them is their fence and they can do what they want with it. The wife showed up at some point, absolutely hammered, and added to the chaos. I eventually bowed out and I went home, and I told my significant other that we should probably just let it go. It's just paint, and that I know if we have any extended negative interaction with the neighbors, it's probably going to be a never-ending headache. But now they're vandalizing it. It's been used as a backstop for what I think is a set of throwing knives by the younger teenage boy, as well as airsoft target practice. They're hanging screws and nails to it to hang targets and stuff. Paint is one thing, but the physical damage will shorten the life of the fence. I guess I'm just wondering if what they said is true. I'm finding minimal info about it. It is on the property line, but the idea of the side facing them being their side just seems really ludicrous. But I can also see that being a thing since it borders their yard. Can I file a police report for damage to property? Also, what legality do I have for cameras? A friend suggested putting up cameras, but since it's their yard and they have a reasonable expectation of privacy, I don't think I'd be allowed to do that. Honestly, very good question, because now that you said it, I'm like, does that side belong to them? Only if they paid for half of the fence being put in, right? Like if you went, I don't know. How does that work with property lines? Good question. Okay, we have an update, so we might find out. The update came 3 months later. It's April 16th, 2020. So I got a lot of good advice. I was pretty not happy to realize that I would probably be in for a long haul of BS, but ultimately decided to see just how much of a headache it would be to have dealt with it. I did find a lawyer who I was prepared to contact. The first thing I did was contact the fence company, since that seemed nice and easy to start with. In my original post, it was suggested that because the fence posts are on my side, that makes it my property. So I called and asked them. You guys, the fence property saved my butt. I told them what was happening and they had me come in to talk to the guy who owns the company. He told me that the fence is entirely on my side. I said no, I asked for them to put it on the property line. He said he knows what I had asked, but their company policy is to not put fences exactly on residential property lines and instead to shift the fence 5 inches in off the property line. There isn't anything in their contracts, on their website, or anything. He said they should have mentioned it to me when they did install, but they don't like to because people usually get mad about it. Apparently they had a situation just like this that they got tangled up in and just ended up refusing to touch residential property lines because of the potential headache down the road. So while I think I may have some opinions of just installing fences a few inches from where the owners want it without telling them, I can't complain because clearly it worked out in my favor. The property assessment people had put flags down on the property line and marked the corners with stakes, and while the flags were pulled, when I went out to where the stakes were, the one at the back of the property and the one in the back corner was still there. It's real weedy and untamed. And he was right. It is a few inches away from the fence. So I ended up filing a police report for damage to my property. I told the neighbors I would be taking them to small claims court. They did not like that at all. Not surprised. I told them they can either pay me to replace the panels that were vandalized as well as an installation cost, or I would go to court and make them do it that way. In the end, they paid. Of note, the wife was there the last time I was over. It's only the second time I've talked to her. She was sober this time and seemed pretty apologetic, even if her husband was not. Also of note, the son actually came over while I was in the front, raking up the winter lawn litter in the yard, and he apologized as well. Okay. He said his dad told him that it was okay to use the fence and offered me money as compensation because his dad told him he would have to be the one to pay for some of it because he ruined it with his targets. I have no idea why, because the new fence panels were already paid for and installed. There were 6 of them. I can only imagine his dad wanted his kid to be punished because he was angry. I'm not sure what was going on in his head. I was so mad though. He had almost $250, which is a lot for someone his age, and he offered all of it to me. I ended up telling him to keep it, telling his dad that he gave it to me, and if he came asking, I would tell him I took it and told him that I did not blame him for the damage and I don't expect him to pay for it since it was already paid for. He was surprised and ecstatic and said he was hoping to have enough for a PS5 when it comes out. I told him when the spring fully rolls around, if he's interested, I have plenty of yard work he can do to earn the rest by the time the holiday season rolls around. So, to bring us to present day, I have had no other interaction with the neighbors. It's been surprisingly peaceful. The neighbor kid came and did a bit of yard work before COVID rolled around and earned an extra $50. I told him lawn mowing doesn't violate social distancing rules, so if he would like to do my yard when he does his own, he would get paid for it, once it's nice enough out for the grass to grow. All in all, it was pretty successful. Okay, well, you know what? We have a happy ending on one of these stories. I would have put up a for sale sign if it hadn't worked out, but it did. All right, all in all, pretty good deal in the end. Let me know your thoughts, you guys. And if you have any neighbor drama of your own, let me know. I want to hear about it, okay? Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. I'll see you tomorrow.